if you're excited about running or just physical fitness in general, you want to watch this podcast because we have Lucie Murray on our show today who is going to talk about organizing some events like the LA Marathon, the Pasadena Half Marathon, the 5Ks that we have here in town, and all of the community things that the McCourt Foundation does, raising money for health, neurological issues, and just generally giving back to the community. It's going to be very interesting, and I think that when you're done with this podcast, you might want to run. Hey, Lucie, how are you?
I'm great, Don. How are you?
Great. I'm so happy. I've been looking forward to you coming here because I don't know if you remember this from when we met. We met at the Chamber event, and looking at me, you would never know it, but in my former life, I was a long-distance runner, and stuff, and I'm really hurting inside because whenever I see somebody like yourself, you're wearing your running gear, or I look outside and I see these young kids, man, in a line running together. I miss those days. There's just something about being able to get on the road and run. I was telling my wife the other day, we were coming back from pickleball, and I saw a bunch of kids running like that, and I thought, when you could do that, you feel superhuman. You could, territory doesn't mean anything. So we have a lot to talk about. So before we get into a lot of questions, I do want to introduce the audience to Lucie Murray. Lucie and I did meet at a recent Pasadena Chamber event. I had the privilege of sitting next to her at a breakfast event that we had, and I found out that she is the program coordinator at the McCourt Foundation. Her foundation organizes the Rose Bowl Half Marathon and 5K in January, as well as the Los Angeles Marathon every year. And you've done it how many years now for the...
This will be the 39th running of the Los Angeles
Wow.
Marathon. Yeah, since
Wow.
1986.
Okay. Man, I got something to talk about that too. Okay, so... And Lucie has informed me she works with many groups in our community, including the LA Roadrunners. God, I remember those people. Local run clubs, an ambassador team, legacy runners. So all these little running clubs that you participate in. I remember that when I was a kid. Yeah, and you also get to know communities through these connections with the chambers and other local businesses and stuff. And what else I want to say? Now, it's not all about the running, okay? It's called the McCourt Foundation for a reason, and that is because this is a nonprofit that is striving to cure neurological diseases while empowering communities to build a healthier world. Wow. Man,
Yeah.
you're trying to change the world, it sounds like.
You know what? One step at a time, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about the McCourt Foundation first.
Sure.
I mean, I want to open up with that because that's the whole reason that you're in existence, really. I mean, the running is important, and that begs a lot of questions. But how long has the McCourt Foundation been around?
It was started in 1992, and the organization is based in Boston, but we also have offices here in Los Angeles. And the marathon, LA Marathon, and Rose Bowl Half actually started being organized by the McCourt Foundation in 2021. And so there's been a much longer history with the McCourt Foundation, but it's more recently that they've started organizing these events.
So was the idea to raise money for the McCourt Foundation by organizing these events? Is that what it was?
Exactly. So these events were already in existence.
Right.
But when the McCourt Foundation sort of stepped in and started sort of bringing them into their organization. So now those events, the Rose Bowl Half Marathon, it used to be called the Pasadena Half Marathon.
Right.
So people might remember it that way. It's now called the Rose Bowl Half Marathon and the Los Angeles Marathon. Those were already in existence. But a few years ago, the McCourt Foundation sort of took them under their wing. And so now the McCourt Foundation organizes those events.
Got it. So all those running events, and I besides a marathon, I have been in a lot of those events. Those were organized by a potpourri of organizations for a variety of causes, and it seemed like the foundation comes in and says, "Hey, we'll organize this," and those other organizations kind of subsided, or what happened?
Yeah. So I mean, like with the Los Angeles Marathon, you have the city is technically sort of the owner of the event, and then different organizations over time have come in to produce it. So it's still owned by the city, but we
Do you have to bid for it?
Yes, it's a much more outside of my purview, but yes, I mean there's a whole process that goes into becoming the organization that manages the event.
Well, it sure says a lot about the McCourt Foundation that you were able to grab all these very notable events, because I imagine that there's a lot of people that would love a part of that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And when we talk about the striving to cure neurological diseases, why the McCourts? Is this the family of the McCourts that we're all thinking about?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
So why did they choose that out of all the things that they could do?
So the our CEO Brian McCourt had a personal connection. His father had a personal connection with neurological diseases, and so that became his mission in life is to find a cure for neurological diseases, and specifically Alzheimer's, ALS, Parkinson's, MS. And so that's sort of, and they do that, they use the money that's raised through the foundation for research, also educational forums for awareness building, but also to just reach into the community and support healthier communities as a whole, not just through neurological connections.
Okay. Can you give me an example of those things?
Sure. So specifically from, like, for example, the running events that we do we have a huge impact on youth communities. So we partner with programs like Students Run LA, which is a program for middle school and high school kids to train for and participate in a marathon. So we partner with them to make sure that the LA Marathon is there for them to train towards, and we have a really wonderful connection with them. In fact, I think we have 3,600 students coming out this year to run the race, and they also participate in the Rose Bowl Half Marathon, and around the same number participated there. So that's a really wonderful way to, be part of sort of the future, and to really start to instill health into the minds and sort of hearts and passions of young people. But not only that, we also have a program that we partner with called 26 Mile, which is for elementary kids. And so they do a marathon, but they do it as a progressive marathon, so not all at one time.
Okay.
They do it 1 mile sort of at a time over 8 weeks. They do it at their after-school programs. And then the week before the marathon, we have a big event at Dodger Stadium. Whole bunch, thousands of kids. I think we have about 6,500 kids coming this year.
That's a lot of kids.
It is a lot of kids, like 3rd through 5th grade, come out to Dodger Stadium, and they run their final mile together. We have the start arch, we have a big finish line, we have medals and T-shirts, and they get that experience of being something bigger than just running around your playground or just running around your neighborhood, which is awesome, but like what an exciting time to come out to Dodger Stadium and run this race and get a medal and cheer with your friends and cheer each other on. It's really a pretty special day. So things like that we do. We also use the marathon is for a lot of local charities. About 100 charities a year use the marathon to fundraise for their own charities. So they will, we have organizations like Kitten Rescue and the American Heart Association and Team Challenge. Groups like that will come out. They'll use our event as a fundraising tool, and they bring sometimes smaller teams and sometimes bigger teams to come out and run and just raise awareness and also some funds for their philanthropy.
Awesome. You're talking about a lot of organization when you're putting together one of these massive runs. Mm-hmm. So I always tell the story that when I graduated high school, I was a 4-letter runner in the Midwest, and a couple of us decided we were going to run in the very first Chicago Marathon. And so I ran 8 miles a day for about 6 weeks. That was my training. I don't think that I went any further than that, but I ran that marathon. And when I was finished with that, I lay down on the ground and my legs cramped like crazy. and the newspaper reporters were coming around, right? And they started pointing the camera at me, and I felt very embarrassed because I was in excruciating pain, and I think I might have used some curse words like get away from me. And they didn't take pictures of me, thank goodness, but they took pictures of people that were around me. And during the race, so the next day when it was in the newspaper, I'm like, yeah, I was right behind that person and stuff. It was pretty cool. But I tell the story because I've only run one marathon in my life. It's because I swore that I would never do it again. I mean, it was like the human body shouldn't be doing this. And that, you get to the wall, the famous wall, and you start getting delirious, and it's like, how am I going to finish? Because I always wanted to know what that was like, because you always heard about it. And once you experience it, it was like death, man. So I'm going to talk about all the great things about your running. But first I want to talk about some begging questions. Why should people be running 26 miles? I mean, isn't it against, your health to be pushing yourself that hard?
Well, I will say that if they don't want to run 26.2 miles, 0.2, it's very important, Don. You got to make sure you say the 0.2. A lot of people actually opt to do the half marathon, for example, the Rose Bowl half marathon.
And those aren't easy either.
That's 13.1. No, it's not.
But
and by the way, Pasadena is not a flat city, and so we have a lot of hills.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful course. I mean, what a just tour of Pasadena. It goes past some of the landmarks. So if you don't love running fast and you just love running through a beautiful area, a Rose Bowl half marathon is fantastic because you get to see all of these amazing landmarks along the way. You get to go over the Colorado Bridge. There's a ton of crowd support. We get a lot of people from the local clubs that come out and spectators coming out and cheering, and then when you're done. There's a ton of restaurants to go to where you can go and eat pancakes. So look, a lot of people run for different reasons. Some people run for the pancakes afterwards. I fully support that. Some people run fast and want to try to win. Some just want to take it easy, enjoy the sights. 26.2 miles is sure a different beast. But it's one of those things, there's a lot of us that cross the finish line and say, you know what, never again. And then, as soon as you kind of catch your breath and you have a banana and you have a little water, you're like, you know what? I'm signing up for the next one because I can do better.
That fast?
It's... So
you've run in, you told me lots and lots. How many marathons have you run in?
Oh, gosh. I've done, I don't know, maybe 20 marathons and ultra marathons, which is over 26.2 miles. A lot of half marathons.
Do your legs still hurt when you're walking down the stairs after a marathon? Or are you so built up from it, it doesn't bother you anymore?
No, I mean, it's still, look, 26.2 miles, it doesn't matter because if you're running fast or even if you're running slow or walking, it's a long time on your feet. So chances are, I mean, there aren't a lot of people who finish that distance and just go, hey, that was great, I'll do another one. Although I do know some people, but that's not me. That's not most people.
So how is it that people don't get knee injuries, hip injuries from doing it for many, many years? I never had that problem from running, but I do know a friend that he's 80 years old, and about 5 years ago, he finally had to quit running because he had a knee replacement or something like that. But are there tips that you, as a very experienced runner, would tell people how to avoid injury in long-distance running?
I think it's really important. A lot of people get really excited at the beginning of training, especially if they're new to it, or maybe they're returning from an injury or returning from a lot of years having not done it. And they jump in and they get the training plan and the excitement, and they're just so swept up in it that they can tend to build up mileage too quickly, maybe do too much speed work at the beginning, and they just sort of do too much too fast.
Training for the Olympics.
Just training for just getting sucked up in the excitement, right? And, you really have to be mindful. You have to let your body adjust. A lot of people run too fast. They think, I should go race pace for every run, but you need to build endurance. And so it's about training at slow paces. It's about rest and recovery days. It's about cross training. It's about recognizing when that's starting to bother me. I need to maybe take a rest day or see a specialist about it, or maybe I need a new pair of shoes. Maybe the shoes I'm wearing aren't the right things for me. Maybe there's something with my form that I'm doing. I think you just have to be really mindful, and as you go through your training, you just take time, you recover properly, and that doesn't mean just stretching, although stretching is a big part of it, but also eating well, replacing the nutrients, the hydration.
Eating well.
Wait a minute.
When I was a runner, that was the funnest part about running.
I know,
I got to
right?
eat like forever, man.
Just pasta
Right.
all the time, yeah.
But that's a danger when you quit running,
Yeah.
because you want to still eat like that.
Right.
Wow. So, people, you really cut me off at the pass there, because you started talking about why people want to enter into these races, and I think it's a beautiful thing. I used to love going to this thing, the excitement at the starting line, and all the people that were talking and all this stuff, and it was just really cool. And I love when people do it as a personal goal just to finish. Even if it takes 4 hours to finish a marathon, it's like they get it. And what you were saying also is the beauty of being able to run in places that you can't be in this time of life, because the streets are full of cars. But when they close them off, you get to actually see things,
Yeah.
and there's no better way to see it, right?
Right.
Wow. So let's talk about how you organize an LA marathon. I mean, how many people do you have on staff to be able to do that? And what does it require for you to be able to do it?
Yeah. I mean, people are surprised. It's a pretty small staff.
Really?
And that's sort of our core group. However, race weekend, we have a lot of people who come on board as contractors who just work throughout the race and the week. So there are a lot of people who are involved on race day and leading up to race day. Everything from, people who are managing sections of the course, managing the T-shirt distribution, expo. There's just a lot of people out there who are involved in
And
this.
they're volunteering mostly?
We have some paid contractors, but a lot of volunteers too.
Okay.
You've got a lot of high school kids out there who are, serving water at water stations they're setting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, bless them. It really, it's a huge effort with a lot of bodies, never mind the people running through. There's just, there's a lot of people involved in many, many different ways.
Okay. Well, one of the ways is to attract world-class runners, which is, to me, the most interesting part of the marathon. I mean, I talked about all the things I like, but I love to watch the top people come.
It's pretty
Does
incredible.
LA attract the very best?
We have a really great elite field, we also have what's called the challenge, the marathon challenge, and it's basically where we have an additional prize purse for the first male or female the first person basically who crosses the finish line. And what we do is there's this very specific calculation of how much lead time the women's elite field gets in order to sort of compensate to make it a fair fight.
Yeah.
But it can come down to seconds at the finish line because it is so well timed.
So well calculated.
And so that person who crosses the finish line first gets an additional prize purse.
Oh,
so
cool.
that's a pretty exciting and unique part of the LA Marathon.
When I ran the one marathon that I've ran, and actually I've run 10Ks and 5Ks and 12 miles, 18-mile ones. I've done a lot of those. I don't ever see like the elite people, there. Are they within the masses, or do you have?
No, they're at the front of the pack.
You guys put them up in
Yeah,
front then?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. And for our race, the women get a head start, and then the men's elite, and then the field goes.
So people have to wait in waves, I guess, right?
Yeah, we do have waves. So we do try to put if you qualify for a faster wave, we do put those people up towards the front if they qualify and submit a time. So we do have sort of that faster towards the front.
Cool. So which marathons have you run in?
Oh, personally, let's see. So I used to run the LA Marathon. I always say the biggest problem about the biggest disappointment about working for the LA Marathon is now I no longer get to run it.
To run it, yeah.
Because I love running LA. It's just, I mean, we really do have a great city.
Well, you changed the course, didn't you, this year? Or?
No, I mean, it's been the same course for the last few years. It starts at Dodger Stadium. It did change
Going down
in
the hill.
2021.
Okay.
Yep, it's very hilly at the beginning. It did change in 2021, and now it finishes at Century City. But it still goes through Hollywood and West Hollywood and Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive. I mean, it's a pretty exciting course.
Did it used to go to Santa Monica? Is that
It
where
did,
it ended?
yeah.
But it goes to Century City now.
Yep, now it loops back to Century City.
Okay. Man, that would be fun to go through all those places you talked about.
It's there's so many great sites. It's almost like if you go too fast, you miss some of that. So yeah, it's really is a fun race.
How long is it open till? Is it like, I know you guys start probably really early, like 7 in the morning. Is that when the
Yep.
gun goes off?
Mm-hmm,
Okay, and so your last runners are coming in at about what time?
Well, I mean, honestly, we have people who the course finish line. The main finish line comes down 6.5 hours after the last runner crosses the start line. However, we have people finishing, and we do need to reopen the roads. Obviously, cities want their roads back, and so we do ask people to move to the sidewalk if they're still running. But they're absolutely still welcome to run. We do have a couple of late aid stations, and we keep a sort of a late finish line, or excuse me, a late finish line open for several hours afterwards. So. And we actually still have people coming in 10, 11, 12 hours later. We have some of our legacy participants who have run every single marathon since 1986.
Oh my gosh.
Some of them, they're out there till they cross, and they support each other, and they cheer each other on, and they get back. Maybe they're finished, and they get in their cars, and they drive up, and they walk with people, and they cross the finish line together. We had somebody last year who was on her 600th lifetime marathon. She did it at LA. She's one of our legacy participants. 600th in her lifetime. That was her 600th marathon.
May I ask how old this woman was?
She'd kill me if I told you that.
I'm doing some very quick math, and I'm thinking, because you did a lot of marathons every year, it sounds like.
She does a lot of marathons, and I think she said she'd run one in almost every continent for sure, and I don't know, remember how many countries, but she was also an SRLA, Students Run LA coach for many years. But yeah, so she crossed, and it took her, I want to say, between 11 and 12 hours, but you know what, the legacies were there, and they supported her, and we were just so thrilled that she was there, and we could support her doing that, and she didn't come in when the big finish line was up, but she still came in, and she still got a finish time, and
I loved every moment of it.
Yep,
obviously.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember the runner's high. That's the part that I just can't even explain to people that have never felt that before. It's like, it's the mind just starts. You're in this beautiful zone, and stuff, and it really, once it starts, it really goes all the way to the end. Even through the pain, you're in that runner's high.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. And we have a lot of spectators on our course. I mean, I think we've after COVID, there were, it got a little quieter on the streets, but last year it got a lot louder again, which is great. And I think this year it's going to be even louder. Even Rose Bowl Half Marathon, we had a huge run club and run community presence on Colorado. Just making a lot of noise.
So where's the course in the 12-mile one? It's a 12-mile race?
13.1?
13.1, okay.
For Rose Bowl?
Yeah.
So it starts at just outside the Rose Bowl. It goes underneath Colorado Bridge. It goes down Colorado, and then jets down to Green, and it has some little sort of side out and backs, I think down Wilson and Lake.
Okay.
And then it goes back. It goes back over the Colorado Bridge, and then it finishes with a a loop around the Rose Bowl, so the last 3.1 miles or so, and it finishes on the 50-yard line of
Oh
the
my
Rose Bowl
gosh,
Stadium.
that'd make me want to run right there.
Right? I mean, there's just nothing like
So
that.
you come into the stadium like
Into the stadium.
Olympic marathon
Down
runner.
the tunnel,
Yeah, how cool
arms
that is.
up. It's just spectators in the
Wow.
stand and just onto the field. It's pretty, all three of our events for that, all three of the events for that race finish on the field. So we have a half marathon, we have a 5K, so that one just loops around the Rose Bowl, and then we have a kids run, which is for kids 3 to 8, and that's my personal baby. And they start just outside, and they too finish on the field.
When you were describing earlier the community outreach with the kids, it really touched my heart because I remember when I ran, it really gave me confidence. It gave me a sense that I can be disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
It started making me think about my body and being healthy. There's just so many lessons that you can learn that you're teaching these kids.
Yeah.
And even if they never become even cross-country runners in school, knowing that they can run a mile means a big difference for a child.
And I think there are a lot of other really important lessons in there about sportsmanship and supporting each other, and when you're in amongst that many people doing something like that, there's just a lot of camaraderie, and there's a lot of support that happens. And I think that's what's so unique about the running community, and especially endurance events like this, is it's not just like, there's no way I'm going to win, but you're just surrounded by people. And if you need someone to be like, good job and high five, they're there.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by this energy that's really pretty incredible, and that's the runner's high, I think.
There's a lot of giggling and funny stuff that goes along with the camaraderie as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
A lot of stories to tell.
Oh yeah. It's very much like Vegas, though, right? Like a lot of stories that get told when you're running and you're at that point. Just they stay on the run. It's just better to keep it on the course.
That's cool. So going back to the McCourt Foundation, are you looking for donors, or do you get money for because of these events? I mean, how are you in the community kind of earning to be able to support all of this?
So one thing that we do is we have a program called Team TMF, and this is a specific fundraising team that goes out, they raise money that goes directly to the McCourt Foundation, and then they run either the Rose Bowl Half or and actually also Santa Monica Classic, which is another one of our events, or the LA Marathon, or even there are 2 events in Boston. So they could run any of those events as Team TMF. And
not the Boston Marathon.
No, well, they actually do have a team. They do have several entries that you can run the Boston Marathon as Team TMF. But for our specific event, so you can run Team TMF as Team TMF, and there are different perks that you get for being part of that group. And then there are top fundraiser prizes. So, for example, at Rose Bowl, I believe a couple of the top fundraisers got to kick a field goal in the morning, which is pretty exciting. And actually, there's on our Instagram, there's a little highlights video, and you can see them in the morning kicking the field goal. So that's pretty exciting. But there's other different perks that they get as part of the team, and that money goes directly to the McCourt Foundation.
Okay, great. Well, this has been a lot of fun. It's been so long since I've been with a runner and talking to runners and stuff like that. I mean, those years are so gone for me, but it's really fun to be able to, maybe I'll just come to one of your events and just volunteer just to be part of it.
You absolutely should.
Yeah.
It's really fun, even if you just come out and spectate. Like next year,
Yeah.
so we have the Rose Bowl Half is in January, and even if you are just, we may come down lake here, just come out and cheer and spectate. There's just that great energy. You can feed off of it, and
So the beginning and the ending are both at the Rose Bowl.
Yes.
So you could maybe as a spectator go there and watch the beginning of it, see these world-class athletes all standing in line, see the thing that you're talking about with the women going first and then the men and then the waves of people coming and watching the joy of everybody and the nervousness and all that goes along, and then come back, when it's anticipated that the runners will be coming in and cheering for them, or even going to the sideline someplace and enjoying that.
Yeah. And that's at the LA Marathon. Yeah, that's where the elites are. And so, yeah, I mean, there are so many spots.
Oh, you don't
along the
have that
course.
here?
We don't, not
Okay.
here. I mean, we do have some pretty incredible
I would think so,
runners
yeah.
from the community who
Yeah.
participate in that, but definitely
Not the world-class
elite, right?
ones,
It's a slightly different type of event, but I mean, definitely here in Pasadena, I mean, you can certainly, in fact, there's shuttles that you can get from downtown Pasadena to the start line. We offer them obviously for our runners, but if later in the day, if you don't mind, sort of waiting for the masses of runners to go by, you can always get close to the stadium. And I mean, jump in the course anywhere or along the course, obviously not onto the course, but jump in and cheer and watch it all happening.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this has been really fun. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having
Yeah.
me. I love talking about running.
Yeah, I could tell. And thank you for joining us on Pasadena Pioneers.